Hi, and welcome to the Agile Talks again. Today we will discuss with Arie Van Bennekum, who is the co-author of Agile Manifesto. Before to introduce and invite him, I want to summarize our X sessions. This will be our fourth session, and we start with Jeff Sutherland, and I want to share some notes about the X sessions. The first note, start with executives is important. I take my notes. Also, team motivation is important, and focus on business agility and remove delays and try to go fast. I take these notes from Jeff's session. In the second session, we discussed with Evan Laybourne, who is the founder of Business Agility Institute, and also my notes is about that session. Learn all different frameworks like Scrum, like Kanban, like Safe, and focus on business results and outcomes. And after that, last week we discussed with David Henderson, who is the founder of Kanban University. I take my notes again in this for this session and start where you are. And pull system is coming from Kanban. And the important point, if you are doing some things good in your transformation, don't remove it while trying to adapt new frameworks. So start where you are and be pragmatic is an important note from that session. So today we will discuss with Arie, and also I want to invite Arie. Welcome, Arie.
Hey, Aaron. Nice
How
to
are
be
you?
here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you, and thank you to accept my invitation. So the questions, some questions will be a bit challenging, but I know you like challenging questions, also out of box questions. So there is no, and also while we discussing about this session, you said me I don't want to show some presentations. I want to just talk. So I think it's a good idea without presentation to just to discuss. And let's start. Who is Ari? The first easiest question.
Shoot, what would you like? Which question would you like to ask?
Okay, who is Ari? Who is Ari Van Bennekum?
Ah, well, okay, so I have to reveal my age now, right? I'm 58 years old. I am from the Dutch countryside. For those people who know the Netherlands, I am living sort of close to Rotterdam. I got a bit of career in the healthcare, working in the hospital. Then I got into the army as a platoon's commander. I got in 1987 into IT. I have two sons. They are big boys, right? 26 and 30. They're not children anymore. They're my children, but I have a granddaughter, Hilde. I am here in Johannesburg, South Africa, with my girlfriend, Natasha. I am traveling, of course, a lot. I do a lot of, so what I like to do is international cross-border agile transformations. But as you can imagine, I do a lot of, conferences and talks and leadership sessions and those kind of things. Wherever people invite me, I go. So it can be, I've been in Istanbul a couple of times, just to give you an idea. I've been in Argentina, Colombia, South Africa, Ghana, Morocco, of course, the European countries, most of them, China, Thailand, Australia, and I like that a lot. And the reason I like it a lot, first of all, I like travel, of course, that's obvious, but also I know that, I started working Agile in 1994. I started doing things that we call Agile today in 1994. But also I know that already in those days, you would have 1 or 2 days a week. At the end of the day, you would go to a place, maybe an office, where we get pizzas or whatever you do, right? And we would talk about, okay, this is what I did, this is what worked well, and this is what didn't work well. And we try to learn from each other. So for me, Agile has always been community driven. So I'm still very active in the community. Yes, I like travel, but also I like to meet
Great.
People and have the face-to-face talks and chats and with small groups, big groups. I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, maybe we can invite you face-to-face meeting or face-to-face webinar
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
in
Yeah.
Istanbul. Oh, okay, let me start with the second question. Let me continue with the second question. So you are one of the co-author of Agile Manifesto. So this is my classical question about Agile Manifesto. If you had a chance to change this manifesto,
Yeah.
yeah, how can you touch it? Or
Yeah. Sometimes I get. I mean, you understand. I get this question more often,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I always say, in on one side, the manifesto is sort of like a declaration of independence. If you read the Declaration of Independence, I'm not from the United States, but if you read the Declaration of Independence, you can see how valid it is. But also, you can see, if you really read it, how much work we still have to do. And I think that's the same for the Agile Manifesto. However, so on one side, I would say, go to the manifesto and try to work like this. Don't have an excuse not to do things that are in there, because a lot of people have an excuse not to do things. Get there. On the other side, but this is in hindsight, of course. Um, One of the things that I would change, if I would rewrite the manifesto, if I would be in the same weekend, because we did it in a weekend, I would take out the word software and I
Hmm.
would replace it by, product or solution, or that kind of thing, um, because of the word software, everybody thinks that Agile is for software departments, IT departments only, which is about the biggest nonsense you can get. Because if you make a new product, and you and I know that all products are IT software tech related these days, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So if you bring a new beautiful software-based product to life, but your marketing is not there, your legal is not there, you don't treat the people in the way you want them to work, then at that moment in time, you're late. And Agile is about avoiding delay. So you have to have all disciplines collaborating on a delivery, on a full delivery, to make that happen. So that also answers the question about, is Agile about IT only? Can you do it outside IT? I never, ever in my life did Agile exclusively in IT, because
Hmm.
I would do a project. At the time we called it projects, right? So I did projects in the late 90s, where you would have the software delivery, and you would have the data conversion, you would have the technical rollout, but you would also have the marketing department involved, and the legal department involved, and the communication department, and they all need to be aligned if you want to get that product, whatever that you put in production live. And if one of those is late, your delivery is late. And Agile is about avoiding delay. And we can't afford any delay these days, because with technology, everything is so fast. And that's what we need to understand. And so if anybody asks me, is Agile possible outside the world of IT? Yes, of course.
Yeah, my second
Um,
third question was about this. Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, and I understand it, because we wrote the word software in that manifesto. We should not have done that, right? That would be, and Meral is asking if you want to add instead of changing. Well, it's like I said, it's sort of the Declaration of Independence. It's sort of, you know, just show me one company that lives up to the values and the principles. And there are not that many, because they have so many steps still to take. And as a transformation is not an easy thing, I know this, but
Mhm.
it includes that non-IT thing. And maybe that's not a change, but I would add or something around that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's for me a very, so that answers also Mustafa's question, where he says, why are you limiting Agile only with Agile, with software projects? I'm not. I never did. I never will. So yeah, yeah,
But my question is about, I think in that part has a misunderstanding with lots of companies.
mm,
Let me introduce it. If we talk about agile outside IT, they are
mm.
understanding, let's do Scrum in marketing team, or let's do Kanban in some service or support teams. So I think that's an important point. Uh,
Yeah, I
what?
agree. Sorry to interrupt you. I mean, I agree. There are two things that I would like to say. You can do agile in a marketing team. You can do agile in a legal team. You can do agile in a finance team, in a software development team, of course, as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. But you have to do it together. If you do a delivery, if you do a new product, all those disciplines are together. So you work together from one backlog.
Hmm.
It's one backlog that will make that product go live. And part of the backlog will be regarding software or whatever. But another part will be about marketing. And also, you can exclude agile working completely from IT. So, to give you an idea, organizing conferences or doing a communication campaign, you can do that in a complete. I did that in a recruitment campaign in HR, completely in the agile way, right? So that's what we need to understand. Agile is a way of thinking and working, and it's not just something that you copy and paste
Hmm.
from a book and then put it into your IT department.
Okay, and also we will talk about that frameworks. But before that frameworks, my question is about ready for change. When I watched your X sessions, webinars, you said we need to ready for change. What does it mean? Uh, yeah, can you help us to understand it? Yeah.
Well, maybe because I see, I don't know if I pronounce the name right. Siad is coming in with a question: how do you approach or persuade individuals and organize
Hmm.
to be agile, right? What one of the things that we need to realize, if you go into an agile transformation,
Mhm.
it's not about um, just doing things a little bit different. You have the layer of doing agile, in
Mhm.
doing your dailies and your visual management and having your dailies and retros and heartbeats and etc. But to make that successful, the layer below in the organization is about making sure that this layer at the top can work. So you need to have deep in, cross silo collaboration, uh, different ways of documentation, decision making, all these kind of things. You need to make them happen. And doing a little bit of agile, I can go down the street here, and
Mhm.
I can grasp six people and say, let's do it daily tomorrow, and let's do it daily for the next 4 weeks. But that has nothing to do with being agile, right? So the understanding of what agile means, what you have to do to get the agile benefits, and then in that deep change in the organization where you go cross silo and different ways of collaboration, different roles and responsibilities, that is a deep change, and that's not easy. And the question from Said is, well, how do you persuade an individual? I mean, you don't.
Mhm.
People can only persuade themselves, right?
Mhm.
Because people don't like, in general, people don't like change. People are in the comfort zone, and I like the comfort zone because everything is safe there, and not safe as in safe, but safe as in secure, right? So I'm safe here. And why do you want me to give this up? If you have, let's say you have a 45-year-old guy who is a middle manager somewhere in the company. He's in the company for 20 years, got to his position where he is. He has children at university, he has a mortgage or whatever, just as an example. So why would they change? They have their income, they have their company car, whatever they have. So you have to understand, you cannot persuade means like, you know I'm going to use physical violence to make you do what I want you to do. But the moment I do this, I know that the moment that the pressure I put on them is taken away because I'm going to another place, they will fall back in their old habits. And the big thing is that people, the layer between doing agile and having that change in the organization, that's where you need to happen. And it takes time because people need to understand, oh, we can do without the waterfall. We can do without the documentation as we always did. We can do without the decision making as we always did. And people need to learn and to just, and if you can take people on a journey where you can help them to discover so they can make their own steps forward, that's how you can make an agile transformation. And that is not easy because habits are deeply deeply rooted in us. I want to give you a very stupid example, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
I like cooking. Right? I'm
Okay.
back home, and I started living in the house where I am today 22 years ago. And I love cooking, so I made that kitchen totally the way I wanted it. And behind one door, I had a trash bin. And then, so that was 2000, right? And then I don't know, like 2014 or so, I did a little bit of redesign in the kitchen, and I put my trash bin behind another door. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
nothing serious happened so far. It was just before the summer holiday this year that I was in the kitchen cooking, and my youngest son is 26. He came home and he sat down at the bar and we had a chat. And while we had a chat, I was cooking and I had trash and I wanted to throw it away. And I opened the old door that I didn't use for trash for the last 8 years. This is what habits do in our brain. And this is what we understand when we go into an agile transformation that we have to overcome. An agile transformation is accepting there is a new reality about how you can do things. But then if you accept a new reality, you don't have all the answers. You've never done it before. You've never been there before. So people can tell you, oh, this is how you do it. So you start doing it, but then you bump into a problem. For that problem, you don't have a solution. So what do? You look into your brain and you find an old solution from the old waterfall times. And I call that innovating backward. And we have to understand, if you go into a transformation, we have to replace habits, we have to replace the reflexes, we have to replace the paradigms, and it takes time. And when it comes to the question from Said is, about how can you persuade? You don't persuade, you take me and you make them accustomed to getting it done. It doesn't mean as an agile coach that you're easy. You have to be very strict, but you have to understand for the people who are in transformation, it's not easy.
Okay, let's talk about in this part leadership, because we talk about change
Yeah.
management, also the resist for the, yeah. I take this question from your some slides, not slides, some post. Buzzword. Why agile leadership buzzword?
Yeah. Um, it is a buzz, I have to say, but I think it's a justified buzz.
Okay.
And the reason I say this is, so here we are, we have all those people working on the teams and they're doing the things, they're in their struggle, they have to work agile, they go to a training and now it's going to happen and things go wrong and they don't know what to do and all these kind of things. Now, if you want to look at the leadership team, I always say the leadership team is the make or break in a transformation. Any transformation,
Mm-hmm.
and also an agile transformation. Now, how does it work in an agile transformation? So people don't like change. Whatever people say, I was reading academic research, and maybe it could even be in Gartner, I don't know, but it says something like 93% of the people don't like change.
Hmm.
Okay, so how can you make this happen, right? And that means that in one of the things that you need to understand is that if you're if you have people in an organization, they're in these delivery teams, they're working hard, doing their best for the company, and now they have to do something different. They are reluctant because they think, what happens if I make a mistake? What
Hmm.
happens with my evaluation, with my rewarding, with my salary raise, with my bonus, with my position, with my, that's what people think. So if they have, and here we go, leadership. 3. Number 1 is if they see the leadership team working agile, and to get business agility, you need a leadership team to work agile as well. But if they see the leadership team working agile, so
Mm-hmm.
if those people up there do it, I can try it as well. Number 1. Number 2, after being the role model, number 2 is you need changes, how to make decisions, how to do documentation, how to do acceptance, all those kind of things. There are of formal changes that we need in the company because we have rules and regulations in the company, maybe official rules from outside. So we need to change those. So next to the role model, you need the leadership team to help the organization to change the formal processes that we have. Not
Hmm.
all the time, but very often they are involved. And then number 3, so we have role model, and then we have creating the change, and number 3 is sustaining the change. You know, we all know how it works. You're in a team, there's a pressure, something goes wrong. So what people tend to do is fall back in old solutions. And this is where the leadership team needs to say, listen, we are working agile. Something went wrong. I want you to do a retrospective and find out how you can, in an agile way, find a solution to move forward. I call it innovating forward instead of innovating backward. Right? And this is very important to see from the leadership team perspective. And I see, I don't know if I pronounced the name right, Siku coming in and said, hey, there should be a certain level of persuasion in order to take people to take that
To
journey.
that journey, yeah.
Of course, I like to make the metaphor with sports. You know, we championship coming up. I don't know what you know about the Dutch football team, but we have the trainer called Louis van Gaal. And Louis van Gaal can be an asshole, and a good asshole, because he will not take bullshit. Because people will say, yeah, but this is so difficult, and this is, hold on, we are a team here, and this is how we work, and this is how you do it. And once you get through that stage, where I say, so let's say the rules of the game, let me put it like this. Then you get into the moment and say, okay, now we know the rules of the game. Let's fine tune on, you know, in the football metaphor, the tactics. And then you go into the team tactics, and the next step is, okay, so we have the left defender and the right wing attacker or whatever. Okay, so you can do a little bit more this, you can do a little bit more this. So from the rules of the game to the team tactics to the individual fine-tuning. And it's not only that you can persuade people to do this, you start with, this is how it is. Come on, we made the decision to work agile, so we're going to. But then you need to understand that you have to work on the team tactics, and you have to help the people on that individual refinement. And that's a really good path for transformation.
Okay. And I have question about this leadership part. Always the company starting with their transformation, they say, yes, we know we need to start with executive level. Let's plan 2 days training with
Yeah,
executives and
yeah.
continue to our journey with them. Is it enough for to change their mindset? How can we change the leadership mindset?
Well, the first question was, is it enough? The very short answer with two letters is no.
Okay.
No, it's not enough. So this is so this is how I do it, right?
Mhm.
First of all, if you bring an organization in a transformation, giving the three things about the leadership team that I just said, the role model, creating the change, sustaining the change. I always say leadership teams need to understand agile themselves, and they need to understand it,
Mhm.
maybe not even agreeing with it, but understand it before anyone goes into a transformation. Because the moment that teams go into transformation, they need to be supported by the leadership team in the change, in the things that need to happen, and in the new way of working. Right. So from that perspective, if you can make those kind of steps with the leadership team, it's not a 2-day training. So I always start, okay, I want you to understand how your teams will work. I want you to understand what you will see, what you need to do, what they expect from you, what you can expect from them. The next one is, how do you work agile yourself? Because leadership teams have to be working agile ourselves on the portfolio level, on the company level, on the strategy, and you need to connect the strategy to the delivery. And in a lot of organizations, in agile, but also pre-agile, there was a massive gap between strategy and delivery. So you need to close. And you can close that in an agile way if you want to, right? So that's very important to understand. And then you go into different topics like, okay, so the profiles of agile professionals are different. How do you handle the different profiles? How do you recruit different profiles? How do you reward different profiles? How do you offer a career path to different profiles? What do you do? So for me, the leadership program is important. It's not a 2-day training. It's
Mhm.
starting with a couple of awareness sessions before the rest of the teams go into transformation. And then when you're going into the transformation, also the leadership team needs to be coached, and they need to be open to be coached. And a lot of leadership team people are arrogant. They think they know everything. And nobody, listen to this, nobody knows everything. So everybody, here we go again, everybody should be open to learn and to learning all the time, including leadership teams.
Okay, okay, great. And also it's about business side and agile side. They cannot know all things about business ideas or business strategy. So
No, no, this is a big thing, right? Oh yeah, we do agile in the IT department.
mhm.
Yeah, great. So, I mean, if you deliver your software part fast, the rest is still slow. Your time to market is still slow. So
Hmm.
your agile benefits are zero. You need to understand this. So you need to do it together, and especially the collaboration between the business and any developer. And a developer, Aaron, just to be clear, right? And a developer can be software, but
Mhm.
a developer can also be an HR department if they do a recruitment campaign, can also be a marketing department if they do a marketing campaign, etc., right? So we need to understand this. We need to do this together. Yeah.
Okay. And also you said agile HR. Let's talk about HR departments. And
Yeah.
is
Uh,
agile HR possible? If yes, how?
yes, absolutely. There are two things about an HR department, right? Number one, they need to understand. Let me switch on a light here because it's getting dark.
Okay, okay.
Let me see how it works. Yay, a little bit here. So first of all, we have to understand that an agile department is in terms of working in an agile company. You have to understand agile profiles. You have to understand agile career paths. You have to understand what ads should look like. Recruitment ads. You have to understand, etc., etc. The evaluation, the rewarding, the whole thing. That's number one. Do you have to do it all the same? No. I worked in an agile company from 1997 to 2007, and you have to imagine, Aaron, that we had
Mhm.
self-organizing teams from 5 to 30 people, I would say, maybe like 700 people in total. And in those teams, we did everything except sending invoices and paying salaries. Everything else from innovation, business development, sales, contracting, delivery, evaluation, rewarding, recruitment, everything. We did everything in the teams. So that means you can move a lot of the HR down into the teams, but still the H there need to be one or two or three or four or five, or depending on the size of the company, more people that understand what is, for example, legally required. When
Hmm.
you recruit someone, how do you do a contract? When you separate from someone, how do you do that? All these kind of things, right? So you need to understand what the agile professional lives like, works like, moves like, and be there ready also legally. And the second one is if you do. So I was working for a company in a part of the world where there was a lot of stress on finding people, developers, and they had a very urgent need for 20 to 30 new developers. So we organized the recruitment campaign completely agile, with the user story per recruited new professional, definition of done. We had a multidiscipline team. Instead of in that little HR department, everybody working in a silo, we brought them together, and we had a recruitment campaign and it worked very well. So you have to understand agile to facilitate the agile HR process in your organization, and you have to work agile yourself, because also for a HR department it says you have to avoid your delay, because if you're late, somebody else will be on time,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
you're right. So that's the part that you need to get. Yeah, absolutely.
And Meral asked a question. Maybe we can try to answer it. Yeah. Do you think it's appreciated to run without taking part of in the teams, or are the kind of yeah?
Yeah. So I see Meryl's question as well. So do you think it's appropriate to run without taking part in the teams? Okay, and or are the kind of trainings received sufficient for being agile leadership? The last part, no. It's it's like I always make the metaphor with driving a car. Now, I had the privilege of being in Istanbul. I had the
Mhm.
privilege of being in Amsterdam, Rotterdam. I've had the privilege of being in Johannesburg traffic. What happens? Just imagine I give you a 2-day training within a classroom, and we talk about driving a car, and then I give you the keys, and I say, welcome to Istanbul traffic. What do you think will happen? I don't think much good will happen.
Yeah, lots of crash.
So anyone, including the leadership team members, should be coached. It's very simple, because you're going into a new thing. You don't have the answers. You don't understand the rules of the game, really. You don't know what to do, really. You need to be coached. Be open to be coached. That's number one. And then the first part of the question from Mero was, do you think it's appropriate to run without taking part in teams? Well, okay, so some people might not be part of a team, but in general, what Agile is about, in the past, you would be in the waterfall process, you would be you're responsible for your little step in the waterfall. You would make a functional design or a technical design or whatever you do. And Agile is moving away from individual tasks to team delivery. So being in an Agile world where you're not part of a team makes you very lonely, right? And where is your responsibility? Agile is about taking away individual dependencies. Because if I'm in a team, you and I are in a team with 5 others, right? And you are the only one who can write test scripts. Let's just give a simple example. What happens if you get sick? As a team, we get stuck, right? So now in an Agile team, I need to have at least a couple of other people who know how to make test scripts. Maybe not as good as you do, but at least as a team, we can keep on moving forward. So being part of a team is essential. Being part of understanding, I'm working with my team on a solution or part of a solution, and then it's being part of that delivery, being in that, that space where you do together. I always say to my Agile teams, I don't, okay, so let me do it in plain Dutch. I don't give a shit who does what. I just want to make sure that at the end of the sprint, we are there. So if I get stuck because I bump into an impediment, or maybe I get sick, that you can help me, or I can help you, or somebody else can help us. That's where we need to go. So you need to be part of a team. And everybody should be part of a team. If you're in an organization, you should have not people on their own. Because it creates instantly an individual dependency. And that's what you don't want. I think individual dependencies are one of the most damaging strategic risks that we have. One person drops out and we come to a standstill. So we need to get away from this. Yeah. And no, training for Agile leadership is not enough. It's a start. It's a start. And you need it. I'm not making fun of Meryl at all, because I understand the question. It's a very good question. That training is a start. But then you need to coach, and they need to be coached.
And also we have another question, comes from Darren. What do you think about Agile is being so materialized to corporate companies? Would Agile mindset beat them all?
Yeah, this is such. I mean, in the late 90s, I was doing in my own way. These days, we would say agile project management, right? But I did agnostic agile work, and I was in an organization, and I did. So they asked me, "Oh, can we do this?" It was sort of a pilot for them, right? And they were struggling with their projects. First project, happy client, in budget, on time. Second project, happy client, on budget, in time. Third project, happy client, on budget, in time. And then the CIO came to me and he said, "Oh, Arie, I know I can see that your projects are really working well, but we're not going to work like you." I said, "Okay, why?" He said, "Because it's so complicated." And I thought, all I do is I put people at the table to avoid remote or written communication, to have fast, high quality decision making, all stakeholders involved. So I thought, it is so simple. Yeah, that's the layer there. But the real mindset is not on this layer. The real mindset is on the layer below, to facilitate the people, to empower the people and the teams to work in that way. And that's the mindset that we talk about. You cannot push people in a mindset. You can invite people into a mindset. And the one thing that I know is that I always say to people, just join me for a couple of sprints and let's see what works. And every sprint, we have a retrospective. We can identify what goes wrong, what goes right, what we need to keep, what we need to change or to improve. And then if we do an improvement, we do an improvement in an agile way. And that's how you step by step take, you cannot change somebody else. People only change themselves. You can force people to do different things, but the moment the pressure is gone, they will do their own behavior. So if you can offer people, and sometimes with pressure, right? This is how we do it. And then try it out for a couple of sprints, and people can start seeing that it starts to work. And that's the best way to get there. But still, that if you do that in the beginning, you have to understand, you have to really make an effort for the longer time, because it's so easy for people to fall back into the old habits because it's from the comfort zone. It feels so nice, right? So yeah, it's from that perspective, the mindset change is not easy. It takes really time. Um, uh, what I see the question from Darren, where it's gone.
Yeah,
He
it's
said,
yeah.
yeah,
Same question with Aisha, is it if it right? Yeah, how can you develop the agile mindset?
yeah. So what Aaron was asking, will the agile mindset beat other companies? I
Mhm.
think let's leave out the word agile, right?
Okay.
Let's say we are creating together a corporate capability to take out a lot of the delays that we have, to focus on value delivery, to be us with a very high quality, very fast to the market. This can be a bank, any other for-profit organization, but it can also be a government, because we need to be there fast. If you can, you have to understand, you have to do that together, right? And if you as especially for profit, where you are in competition, I am convinced if you have that capability, you will beat the rest. And we have examples from the past: Nokia, BlackBerry,
Hmm.
uh, other organizations that had a dominating world position and are almost completely gone because of this, right? Um, and then I see the question from Aisha, where she says, how
Mhm.
can you develop the agile mindset? Well, we sort of talked about this already, but then she said, how would you know your Scrum team has an agile mindset?
Yes.
I would like to say, let's say we don't talk about Scrum teams, we talk about agile teams. Because if you really want to be agile, you have to use practices from Scrum and extreme programming and test-driven development and less and Kanban and Lean and agile project management and feature-driven development and Crystal and Adaptive. You take the best to make sure that you can do for your team what they need the most, right? And if you want to know, so I
Hmm.
started. So the question from Aisha is very valid, right? How do you know? And I come into organizations and they are not agile, not at all. But if I talk to the people, if I talk to the management, I know this is an agile company.
And also, if
Because,
you check the LinkedIn post, you can see lots of agile company.
yeah. I mean, there are. So I want to. Okay, let me tell you a joke. Well, coming back to Aisha's question later on about
Okay.
how do you measure, because I developed a model that I use to check how agile people are, whether they do agile or not. Right? People can do nothing about agile, but can be very agile, and vice versa. I was 2 weeks ago. I was in another country at a big company, and I said, Arie, can you make a video for us? Because we're in the transformation and, we want to have an inspiring video. So I went to the office there and we made some videos. We had great fun. And then I said something like, so there was the camera team and a couple of the agile coaches from the company were there.
Mhm.
And I said, just having a chat, I said, oh, all those agile companies that have a sprint for a feature team and then a sprint for the development team and then a sprint for test and then a sprint for UAT. And then somebody said behind my back, yeah, but this is how we work agile. That's a waterfall. It's a waterfall. And that's what we need to understand. And this comes back to Erin, what I said before. People
Mhm.
don't like change. People like to stick to what they know and what they do. So they
Mhm.
just try to put a little bit of that agile training that they got, whatever it was, right, on what they do today, and the rest they keep the same. And this is where the agile transformation comes in, right? It's and it's like Mustafa says, silo organizations are more. Yeah, there are so many silo organizations, and when I get the creeps when I see, oh, we have a feature team, or we have a development team, or we have a test team, and we are like, oh, fuck off, come on. Get real. How can you call yourself agile? Agile, and this is a quote from Jeff Sutherland, by the way. I know you talked to him a couple of weeks ago, where he said, and this is how I worked on it. At the end of your sprint, you are going to production, or at least you are ready for production, and you put it on the shelf. Sometimes you have time-bound, your date-bound deliveries to production because the change of law, whatever. So it's ready, and you put on it, and then at one moment in time, so you do the branching or whatever you do to make that happen. But at the end of a sprint, we have this thing in Agile that's called the definition of done. And you know what that means? That everything is done. So I don't do anything else. So at the end of a sprint, I'm done. And it's not, no, I'm done with my development, and they are going into the test, and they are done with the test, and they're going to the UAT, and they're done with the UAT. Bullshit bingo. That's bullshit bingo.
And also to add to add value to you, for our customers, without adding any value for our customers, I think definition of done is not completed. Lots of companies, as you said, they put definition of done, but without add any value to their customers. So I think it's a bit about value streams to complete whole value stream.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's also about, an agile transformation you don't do overnight. I understand this one.
Mm-hmm.
But people try instantly to find the next comfortable situation, and they stay there. And then you get the situation where I see companies, we work agile. And then I walk in, and then the first thing I walk in, I don't see anything. I don't see a product backlog. I don't see a sprint. And it can be digital, on big flat screens, or it can be, but there's nothing in the team space, not on flip chart, nothing there. Okay, so they missed that one. And from that perspective, you get in, and then you get the waterfall. And it's not that I am complaining, but if you make a step forward and you're going to do sprints for features, and a sprint for development, and a sprint for test, that's great. But then you need to know, now we need to integrate, and we need to do everything. You need to keep on moving forward. You need to keep on innovating. And people are, from that perspective, either lazy or scared. I don't know. But they don't like change. So they stick where they are instantly. Yeah.
And let's talk about transparency. And transparency is the carrier of Agile. You said this. Yeah, let's talk about this part.
Yeah, so Erin, let me start with a very simple example and then build up, okay?
Okay.
We do a daily stand-up, and I know the last version of Scrum says we don't ask the 3 questions anymore. I do. Because I want to know what you achieved from that backlog, from that sprint backlog. I know want to know what you achieved yesterday and what you will try to achieve today. I want to know. And also, most importantly, I want to know your impediments. Because if I have an impediment, you might say in the daily, hey, Arie, I have been in that situation. I know that problem. After the daily, I come to you and I will help you fix it. That's the idea of a daily. You shorten the window from the moment that we have a problem and the moment that we find a solution. Because if you only know the problem at the end of the sprint, I already lost days struggling, right? So that means that I have to feel free and safe in the morning at the daily to say, guys, I was supposed to do this yesterday, but I got stuck. I have a problem. I need to feel free. So that's the number one transparency that I need. Then we have a burn down chart. And I love burn down charts because it gives me an indication of when a team needs help. It's not a reporting thing. It's not a KPI that you use to measure teams. No. So that transparency is essential, because if I see the performance going down, the delivery and the burn down not as it's supposed to be, I can just check in and say, guys, do you need any help, or can you fix it yourself? If I don't see that burn down, I cannot offer that help. But the team needs to feel free to make that burn down during the daily, so that I know. And that's transparency number one. Transparency number two is people in delivery teams, they need to know what they work on, because we have the companies. Here we go again, the company strategy, and then we have the delivery, and very often there's a massive gap. And people get pushed into changes. Now we stop this and we start doing that. And people say, I've been working. I saw a tweet. I think it was somebody from Twitter itself. He said, "I've been working for a year on a product, and now it's stopped and it's gone because Elon Musk came in, I assume. And if he doesn't know why, he cannot contribute the best of his brain to the company." So transparency, connecting strategy to delivery, helping each other out in the delivery, it's so important, and transparency will make that happen. I want to give you one example that I really liked. It's outside the Agile books. I was doing a transformation in the Far East, and the coaches that I had on, and I had Dutch coaches, English coaches, Central European coaches, Chinese coaches working together.
Mm-hmm.
And at one moment in time, there was a brilliant moment about transparency. So what the coaches did together with the teams in the retrospect is, okay, what do you need to improve? So what they did is, when you look at the dartboard, they made a big dart, like 2x2 dartboard. And every pie chart in the dartboard was a topic. It could be hardware, it could be test tools, it could be, whatever they made. And then they said, we need an improvement. And the more urgent the improvement was, they put it closer to the bullseye. So you get to this in the hallway, in the corridor of the building. You have this big bullseye with the post-its on. And then I call that the Gemba walk, part of the leadership program, right? So we did a walk through the building. And the leadership team was looking at that innovation. We call it the innovation radar. And look at and instantly everybody knew from the other teams what their struggles was, what they were working, what they needed to help. But also the management team knows. And those are the kind of thing that they never knew before. So you can see how much time you save if you practice transparency.
Okay, and let's talk a bit about frameworks. So I will ask two different questions about frameworks. One of them, SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, the most using framework in world, as I know, in the scaling model. So what do you think about SAFe model? It includes lean portfolio management, PI planning, and also team level design thinking. Lots of different type of methods, models includes in SAFe. What do you think about SAFe model, SAFe framework?
In SAFe, there are a lot of practices that already were used in other frameworks, as you mentioned, right? There are things that I started doing in 1994 and 1995, and I do them today because it works well. The problem with what I think with the SAFe model as it is today, it's number one, it's way too complicated, And the second problem that I have with it is that it offers, especially people in middle and upper management positions, it offers them to sustain the hierarchy in the company and to
Yes. Yeah.
and that's how it's used. I'm not saying that this is what SAFe intends to do, but this is what people make out of it, and that's my big problem with it. And one of the things that I got from one of my clients that, Arie, can you help us, because we used 2 years to implement SAFe, and we took 3 years to get it out again, but we need help. And it's like that any agile framework or any framework at all, it's what people make of it. Hey, that's what we need to worry about. And then we come back to all the other questions, most of the other questions about the mindset. And people like to have massive improvements with a little bit of effort, especially managers. They send you on a 2-day training, and then they want you to be the miracle agile coach in the company. And you think, how the fuck should I do this? You don't know. And then it goes wrong and say, oh, agile doesn't work. No. It's about understanding what you talk about, and most people don't, right? And that's what we need. But in general, maybe a second thing, because we're now asking the question specifically about SAFe, but in general, what is very important to understand is that when we wrote the manifesto, we try to, if you essentialize it, we try to tackle 3 problems. 1, how can we deliver better quality? 2, how can we be more efficient? 3, how can we deliver more value? Now, if I'm only efficient, I deliver very fast the wrong thing. If I am only focusing on quality, it might come in too late because I'm spending endless time on those, tests or whatever. If we only focus on the value, it might take too much time. So when we wrote the manifesto, you had quality, efficiency, and value as the major topics. And if you look at maybe I can even show you, if you look at the Agile frameworks, this is why I'm an agnostic. I don't have one framework that I use, because I simply say it doesn't work, because you need to cover all those three areas. And any team at any moment in time can have their own specific problems. And then you need to know, I'm trying to find something for you now. You
Okay.
need to know what people have to know as a body of knowledge, as an agile coach, for example, to get the company forward. So this is, maybe you can see it a little bit. I don't think
Yeah,
I don't.
under umbrella, all of different frameworks or methods, is it right?
Yeah, and looking at so if you look at it, you can say, lean and Scrum are very much focusing on efficiency. If you have feature-driven development, in my opinion, between efficiency and the value delivery. If you look at value delivery, DSDM, adaptive, and also Crystal, we're very much focusing on that value delivery. You look at the quality, it's about extreme programming and test-driven development. And you need that whole body of knowledge in your organization with the agile coaches and the scrum masters, and maybe in any team member, to understand how can I work in the best way. And if I have a problem, what practice from what framework do I need? For me, frameworks are centers of innovation. The new version of DSDM, the new version of extreme program, the new version of Scrum, the new version of whatever. And that's where the best practice comes. But as a this is the word. As a practicer, is that a word? As a practice, someone who does agile, you need to know all of those to say, okay, what is my problem here? Where do I look? What can I improve? Sometimes I need to implement now a practice from a framework that I didn't use before, or maybe I need to improve a practice that I'm using, but I'm using it not in the best way possible.
Okay, and so that's a great and lots. I think I'm the same idea with you. Agile coach needs to know different type of questions. They don't need to fun of one of them. For example, I like Scrum, so I need to follow Scrum. I'm safe guy. I'm
Yeah,
Kanban guy. They need
yeah,
to know all of them, I think, and
yeah.
they need to be pragmatic in their transformation.
Last week, I got a question, Aaron, and somebody asked me, Arie, what do you think will be the biggest challenge in the next 5 years in agile transformations?
Great question.
And I said the biggest challenge in agile transformations will be the agile coaches, because
Yeah,
somehow, and John Kern, and I know you talked to him recently, right?
yeah.
John Kern, brilliant expression. When we wrote the manifesto, he said, we walked into that room and we left our egos at the door.
Great.
And if I meet any agile coach, especially when they have certificates, they think they know it all. They don't need to learn. They copy what somebody else did. Copy paste doesn't work. And they refuse to learn. And the worst part that I have met so many times is that agile coaches in an agile transformation don't work agile. They
Why?
maybe they just do a little bit of coaching. They do their own way, but having an approach for the transformation to make that paradigm shift, working as coaches, as an agile team with your own transformation backlog, with your sprint backlog, getting it done, working together, pairing up, being multidisciplined. Most people don't know. And worst of all, they don't have the body of knowledge. And I think this is the major jump that we should make in the agile world. Yeah.
That's so great. And also, we have last 4 minutes. If there is another question from our attendees, they can ask. And my last question is, what's your suggestion? 3 suggestion for the companies, agile coach leaders. You can choose one of them, or the answer is includes all of them. 3 suggestions
Yeah.
for them. What's
I
your?
would say to any professional,
Okay.
understand that learning is a lifetime activity. My role model is both my father and my grandfather. So my father and my father's father. My grandfather would call me. He was 92 years old and he was living 100 meters away from me. And then he would call me and he would sit behind his computer and it wouldn't work. And I explained it maybe already 6 times to him, but he just forgot. And he would never give up. He would give me a call. Arie, can you help me? And I would put on my slippers and I would go to grandma, right? Keep up the learning. My father did the same. Never gave up. Always learning. The second one is, in an agile transformation, there is not one thing. You need to understand the agile frameworks, understand the practices that can help you, and be a practitioner and apply it and try and experiment. You will not be perfect, but go for it and learn it. Ask agile coaches, and don't judge an agile coach on his certification. Judge an agile coach on what he or she knows. Go in an intake and ask them what they know about agile. And don't give me those shitty certificates. I love certification. I lectured for 20 years at the university, and the university you finalize with a bachelor or a master certificate. So I do that all the value. But so there are two things, and maybe that's number three. Two reasons why you have a certificate. One is to pimp your profile. Not that you learn anything valuable, but at least it shows nice on your profile, LinkedIn, or when you apply for the job. Second, if you go into a certification, you might go into a certification. I just want to understand, do I really understand it? Do I know this? Can I apply it? That's so that you test yourself. Find the line. That's the one that you should use.
Yeah, I agree with the second part. Lots of people directly blame the frameworks or some things, but without knowing them. So they need to know firstly. So after that, if they practice it, they can blame it. But without knowing or without focusing on that areas, blaming is bad things. Also, thank you, Ari. It was great session for me, and I take lots of notes again. And also, I will remind it in my next session. And thank you again to attend and share your knowledge. And have a good day to you, and have a good day our participants and attendees. And see you in next webinars.
Everybody, thank you for being there. Erin, thank you again for the invitation. We had a great conversation, and maybe we can repeat it in the future. Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. I will invite you again. See you. Bye.
And people can connect to me on LinkedIn if they want, right? They can just
Yeah, you
connect to
can
me.
share maybe your LinkedIn account on chat, and also we can directly follow to you. Or
Yeah, just Google, search me on in
okay.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Also,
And
if yeah.
as you know, when
Mhm.
you send a direct message in LinkedIn, I'm very fast in my response. So
Yeah, I know that. So if anyone has a question to Ari, you can directly write on LinkedIn.
any question people can just ask, and within hours you have an answer. So that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, great evening.
See you.
Bye bye.